Hey guys, it's Diane, and today I'm going to be reviewing Little Heaven by Nick Cutter. So stick around and we'll get to it. Okay, so for a quick synopsis, the story starts out with three kind of like misfit mercenaries. So we have Minerva, we have Micah, and we have Ebenezer, who has the most sass of them all. So they are kind of linked together before they're even kind of called to go on this journey to find this woman's nephew. So they're kind of already linked, and then they're hired by this woman, I think her name is Ellen, to go find her nephew that has been taken to the backwoods of New Mexico to a cult with his father. So whatever reason, he felt like it was his calling to like sell all his possessions and make a new life with this cult in the backwoods of New Mexico. So long story short, they end up going out there, and when they on their journey there's already weird stuff just happening. And so when they finally get there, they're almost kind of, oh, maybe I won't say that. I don't want to give anything away. But so when they get there, they realize, okay, this is very strange. The adults are being weird, and not just like cultish weird, like, they look unhealthy. It's very ominous. It feels like, once you get in there, it's kind of like, okay, something's wrong. The kids are being really strange. They're very like violent and mean and nasty. And so the kids are partly like what's wrong with this area or this whole picture that's going on. And it almost feels like the woods are closing in on them, like everything's kind of getting smaller, kind of leading up to some big not explosion, but like a big something like big and and bad is going to happen. So they're thinking, okay, we need to get out of here, and we need to take the I forget the kid's name, but we need to take the kid and as many kids as we can. So things is, typically don't go as planned. And from there, it just gets wild and crazy. And it just kind of envelops, everything and everyone around it. And it just goes, from bad to worse very quickly. And, the story just kind of moves on from there. Okay, so this book is about 500 pages, so it is a little longer than, say, like The Troop. But I felt like the pacing was on par. I've heard a lot of people say that they felt like it was really slow. I didn't feel that at all. I didn't feel like there was anything lacking as far as pacing, or I didn't feel like it was slow. I don't mind a slow burn. This didn't feel like a slow burn to me. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of I guess I could see why people would call it slow, just because there's a lot of story in there. There's a lot of backstory. There's a lot of, the creation of the call, the ins and outs of the call, and like, kind of how these people got to where they are. And so I guess I could see. I didn't feel like it was slow. I felt the pacing was good. It is a little long. Like I said, it's 500 pages, but I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. And as far as the writing, like, I always feel like Nick Cutter's just such a good writer. He writes so graphic. Like, his stuff is really graphic, but it's. I mean, that's what you want, right? You want to be able to imagine what the person's going through. You want to be able to imagine like the grotesque things that are happening, and all the crazy stuff that's going on. You want to be able to see it. You want to be able to, like, watch it as you're reading or as you're listening to it. I actually listened to it on Audible, and it was just, I was addicted to this book when I was reading it. I just felt like it was just great, and that it was really on point with the pacing, and I didn't feel like it was too long at all. Okay, so as far as character development, I felt like the characters were really well written. I really liked all the characters. I loved Ebenezer. I really liked Minerva. I liked Micah. They just were really relatable. I felt Ebenezer wasn't as relatable because he was all his own. He was very unique, and Micah felt like more of like a protector. Minerva was more just you know, crazy. I don't know, but I liked Minerva. I liked how they all meshed together and how they all came together to, for one common goal. And even if it was a little touch and go at first, they did end up, coming together and trying to, help one another. So I really enjoyed that. There were some other characters in the book that were, definitely all their own. The cult leader was, I don't know if you've seen what's that? It's a kid show. It's actually a kid show. It's Gravity Falls, and on that show they have like this little guy, and I forget what he even does in the show, but he's like really annoying. He's always trying to take the Mystery Shack. This is kind of going off on its own, but anyways, long story short, it reminds me of like this little guy. A Napoleon complex. That's like the perfect way to describe it. Where he's just like this little greasy, like nasty dude, but somehow he has this personality to where he can get people to believe him, he can get people to follow him, and get people to do like what he wants them to do, to give up, to follow him into the woods of New Mexico. Like, what? You're following this little greasy guy out here to nowhere to do what? Why? With your kids? Like, what is wrong with you? That's why I can't always read cult books, or I can't always like watch cult stuff, because it's so out of the realm to me of possibility of like, what is wrong with you? Can you not see through that? But I don't know, you reach people at the right time in their life, you never know. Who knows? Depending on the circumstances, who knows? If it's like, I don't know, never mind. So anyways, but yeah, the characters were so good. They were like just, you really get to know them, and you really get to see that bond, which is really not a coming of age story because they're like 40 years old, but it just really feels like they explore parts of themselves that they didn't even know they needed to explore, that they needed to really get out and to really, feel each other out. So the character development is probably one of my favorite parts and aspects of this book. Okay, so as far as twists go, I don't really remember there being any like major twists. It's not like a super, it's not a mystery thriller type thing. It's like, it feels straight horror to me. So I don't really remember there being like any major twists, like I said. But standout moments, there are a few standout moments in this book. So like I guess I kind of went over it earlier, but it felt very like expansive. It's not just like our world. Like there's, other like craziness going on, and it just feels very like predestined almost. Like, you really had no control over it. And with Nick Cutter, I feel like a lot of times he does that with his books, where, you might feel like you had, some say in this. You might feel like made choices to get here, but really it was totally out of your control, and you're just a part of, you're just a pawn in this like big scheme. So there were a lot of standout moments. There's some really like graphic, crazy imagery where you're like, how is he creating this picture in my mind? How is he, making me like see what I'm seeing just by the way he's describing it. So that's another really like fun aspect of Nick Cutter's books, where you can imagine something that he's describing that's just totally like crazy, and that is just so, it's just so like cool and unique. Okay, so I loved this book. I enjoyed like getting to know the characters. I really the journey getting to Little Heaven was, half the fun. It was there's a the beginning, I think, was probably my favorite part, just because at that point you didn't really know where it was going. You didn't know, really what to expect. And it started off very different than what it ended to me, it felt like. And it was just such a good book. And just reading Nick Cutter is an experience like in itself, because I feel like he's just his own. Like I don't even know who I would compare like him to, as in like if you're interested in Nick Cutter, like who else would you be interested in? Like it's kind of, I guess maybe John Langham, but it doesn't automatically, or maybe Clive Barker, around that really dark and depravity, and there's something beyond this world, and it's just crazy, and it's out of control, and it's it makes you feel very small. And so that's what I really liked about this book, is where like you go to Little Heaven and you experience all that, but it's not the end, and there's like more beyond that. And so this book was just beyond, it was a Nick Cutter book, so it was just great. And as far as like who I'd recommend this to, I've seen some reviews where people were saying like it was really slow. Like I didn't see a whole lot of, I saw more negative stuff about this book than I did see positive, which really shocked me, because when I was done with this book, I was so excited. Like, oh man, this was so amazing. Like, I want to hear like everyone else and how much they loved it. And I was like, okay, I guess nobody else did love it. Maybe a few people, but it was very far and few between that I found anyone else who like agreed with my opinion, which is fine. Doesn't have, you don't have to agree with me to like and subscribe, but you should. So, but I just thought this book was just amazing, and I would recommend it to other people who like cosmic horror, or who like horror in general. It is a little bit longer, but to me that didn't deter me from reading it, or it didn't like knock any points off. Like I enjoyed the book. There were a few parts that I probably could have cut a tiny bit shorter, but it's fine, whatever. It's not that big a deal. And so for this book, I think I would probably give this like a 9 out of 10. The only thing I could say was, maybe, like I said, there were a few parts I thought were like, oh, it's a little unnecessary. I don't know if I was really, but the story itself, and just the big expanse, and the way the imagery, just the characters, and how they were so all their own, and how everyone kind of came together, but were separate almost. It just really fit well together, and I loved the ending. I absolutely loved the ending. I think I love almost every Nick Cutter ending, because it's so messed up. Like, it's not a good ending. It's not a happy ending. Like, you're not gonna be like, oh yeah, that was great. I mean, I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but it's a good ending. I feel like you'll like it. Maybe I should stop talking about the ending, but it was great, and I would just recommend it to anyone who, like I said, enjoys big big books that make you think about, like, oh, what is out there, X-Files style. So but if you like this review, if you like books like this, oh, I almost forgot that I actually got a signed copy of this book, because it's one of my favorites. So I mean, I didn't go to a signing, but I ordered one. So, and it's not a sticker, so I thought that was cool. But so yeah, so that was really cool. But if you like this video, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button, and leave the comments if you have other recommendations, or anything like that. So we'll see you next time.